Hello. Last day in last lecture we discussed about the public intervention in housing till 90s. We have seen that various problems and issues were faced by the government of India and also the state government to achieve the goal of housing for all. So, today we will have a quick look at the barriers or the problems faced in last 4-5 decades till 90s, and after that what are the various interventions done by the government of India so far till the latest time, that is 2015 or 16. So, this all points we will discuss last day, which are the major barriers and issues faced by the government of India: housing affordability, superior technology and system, availability of the land, institutional and policy framework, and building materials, and skilled and unskilled labor availability in the housing construction. So, after facing all these problems and barriers, government tried to improvise slowly and came up with different type of programs after 90s till this time, and which are basically a major change in the approach and outlook towards housing till the 90s and after the 90s. So, this pictures we saw last day till this point we discussed. In today we will have a discussion till 2015 what happened after that in 90s. Now, you can see that in the year 2000 several programs like Nehru Rozgar Yojana came. Here government of India they considered or they understood that housing is not a house, it is essentially a very important part and linked with the livelihood or the Rozgar. So, they integrated the Rozgar Yojana with the shelter provision. Later on this program emerged to another program SJSRY, Sarna Jayanti Shahari Rozgar Yojana, which is nothing but livelihood or the income generation activity in the self-help group in the urban areas, which is also linked with the basic services and the housing. So, this program came in the year of 2000 in 1990. Between 90 and 2000 many other programs came like urban basic service for the poor, urban basic service for the poor. In this program the main objective of the program was to provide basic services without dismantling the building, without removing the building, without resettling the housing or slums as such, providing the basic services for the poor. This program came. The next one is the national housing policy. This is revised based on this policy. We will discuss after one lecture. All the national housing policies together we will discuss, but today we are just touching upon the policies that why it was revised. So, basically it wanted to have a comprehensive approach in housing provision in urban and rural areas of the country. The next which was done by the government is the NSDP, National Slum Development Project, which is a extension of the basic services project plus the basic services plus the essential amenities like community center or the school or the health facilities. So, this National Slum Development Project also came up during this time. Further, in 1998 2 million housing program came. whose basic objective was to achieve housing for all, but it was not sufficient only to take a 2 million housing program, but it was essential to incorporate various reforms and private sector to deliver the housing, which came after the next decade, that we will discuss. And after that also in 1998 the National Housing and Habitat Policy also came in 1998 during this decade. So, in this decade government experimented with the site based basic services driven housing approach with the livelihood linkage and the target of overall housing for all by creating 2 million housing program and revising the national housing policy and national housing and habitat policy in 1994 and 98. So, during this decade government, we realized that probably the housing provision by the schemes and programs is not sufficient by the government. It is not sufficient unless we bring some changes in the supply and the demand side interventions like land, finance, enabling the private developer, etc. That is why after 2000 onwards government came up with separate programs along with the reforms. That is the decade from 2000 to 2010 we have seen the large size very big size programs and schemes which is also coupled on and attached with the reforms that we will discuss now. So, here the first program was the scheme was the Vambe 2001, that is Valmiki Ambedkar Awas Yojana. The objective of this Yojana was to provide the house for the slum population in urban area for very minimum affordable price range like 30,000 to 40,000 rupees for each household. That was the Vambe project. So, after the Vambe project, taking clue from the earlier decades NSDP and UBSP project, government considered that we should go for a comprehensive program, and then the flagship program under the name of JNNURM 2005 came, which is a Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission. So, this program came with the objective of providing basic service for the poor and also urban infrastructure. The difference between these two component is the basic services for the poor including the housing, and the basic services is aimed to for the poor people of the city, whereas the urban infrastructure is aimed to the other population except the poor or as a whole for the city. So, the JNNURM was the major flagship bigger program which was envisaged by the government of India. The major points or major achievements or characteristics of JNNURM was that it was a comprehensive in nature. For the first time they told that all the schemes, individual schemes like Vambe, NSDP, UBSP, all these schemes are superseded, those are no longer existing. In the place of scheme we are going to launch a program called JNNURM, and here every city, every state government, they has to make a comprehensive plan of their housing and infrastructure, and that is called So, the basic change in the JNNURM was that from a scheme driven, from a piecemeal approach driven strategy to a comprehensive strategy through the preparation of city development plan and then come to the individual projects and individual scheme, that is the difference which was achieved during the JNNURM. Now, you know that in 1992, after the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, the in 1992 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, the basic planning job was assigned to urban local bodies, but they were not doing. But after this JNURM in 2005, they made the city development plan with the help of the government, and they came up with various projects. So, this plan is followed by various projects. So, that is the uniqueness of the JNURM. Another very important element in the JNURM was that the whole program is linked with various reform. We discussed that reform is nothing but the organizational discipline. So, it was considered that without the reform at the organization level, at the policy level or at the government level, no programs or no plan can be achieved. That is why the reforms were attached with this. In the next lecture, we will come with the detailed discussion of the reform. That is why we are not going in the very detailed part of the JNURM, but the JNURM was very important in terms of its comprehensiveness in approach, its achievement for making the city development plan for the first time for all the city across the country, and also achieving substantial basic services for the poor and urban infrastructure in our cities and urban areas. That was the JNURM period. Following the JNURM, another program came in the year of 2009, is called Yojana. In this program, the basic difference between the Rajiv Awas Yojana, or in short RAY, was that while the JNURM approach was for overall improvement of the city, including the urban poor, their housing and the basic services, you can see the two basic component was basic services for the poor and urban infrastructure for the whole city. But in Rajiv Awas Yojana, it is completely focused on the shelter, the housing, and the approach which Rajiv Awas Yojana took after the JNURM, which is significantly different in the approach, is that it took the approach that whole city in JNURM, only the beneficiaries who had the land ownership, they got the benefit of the programs, but those poor who did not have the their own ownership of the land, they did not get the ownership. But in Rajiv Awas Yojana, it was said that the program will be for the whole city, all slums, and within the slum, whole slum, and so that we can prepare a slum free city plan. Basically, it is the plan showing the all detailed description of the existing slums and the other housing typologies, and plan for each and every slums time wise. That was the basic motto of the Rajiv Awas Yojana. Another very important part of the Rajiv Awas Yojana was that for the first time in India after the independence, it is recognized to create a different type of housing to mitigate or to prevent the future slum formation. Basically, whatever we do, the slum free city plan in JNURM and the other programs, basically we did for the existing slums as a curative strategy. So, as a curative strategy, wherever slum is there, wherever the poor population is there, we have tried to either redevelop the slum, either resettle the slum, or upgrade or improve their condition. But here for the first time, they propose some preventive strategy. They told that the slum formation, which is also a effect of the migration, and the migrated people, they do not get the affordable houses in the city, that is why they are sometimes compelled to make the slums and the squatter. So, unless we make some preventive action like creating the rental housing, the slum population or some problem will not be resolved only by curative action. So, therefore, in this Yojana, the curative and the preventive strategy both are very, very important, which was considered in Rajiv Awas Yojana. Another very important strategy in the Rajiv Awas Yojana was taken by the government was that it was considered the existing situation of the slums under the slum free city plan. Every city is supposed to make a detailed study of the existing situation, and based of the existing situation in terms of the structural quality, land tenure, their service quality, everything, they have to either come to a conclusion that it can be a on-site or off-site. So, it can be on-site upgradation, improvement, or it can be redevelopment. Whereas, there may be some settlements, and most of the here it was told that our approach will be to achieve on site redevelopment or upgradation as far as possible. If the land tenure, land ownership is not there for the people, so government will try to have a land sharing methodology to create the on site redevelopment project. But where the settlement or the slums are lying in a very dangerous or the hazardous areas like canal front or the railway tracks or the disaster prone area, where there can be, on those kind of situation, the off site resettlement could be thought out. So, that was very important approach in Rajiv Awas Yojana, that coming from a resettlement and rehabilitation mode, it was the emphasis was given on the on site upgradation and redevelopment of the slums. So, that was in short the elements of the JNNURM and Rajiv Awas Yojana. After that, government also came up with the strategy of joint ventures, like they came up with affordable housing policy, affordable housing with partnership. Here public and both can come in a partnership. Public can provide the land and finance. In this mechanism, various projects were built during 2005 JNNURM period to 2009. This period, maximum projects were built across the country in public private partnership, which they call affordable housing in partnership. So, that is very important change in the contemporary housing planning and strategy practice in India. So, through this mechanism, the effect is the total delivery of housing increased manifold. That is the major achievement during this time with this project. Next, we have seen the another program, that National Housing and Habitat Policy in 2007. National Urban Housing and Habitat Policy came where major emphasis was given on the technology and the delivery and its sustainability. And following that, in 2000, after this decade, after this JNNURM and the Rajiv Awas Yojana, this decade, we came to the current decade, which is basically 2010 onwards. So, in 2010 onwards, we have first of all we continued the JNNURM and Rajiv Awas Yojana, and after that we came up with several programs, like you can see the credit risk guarantee. So, credit risk, which is nothing but government takes the risk for the credit for the individual borrower or the institutional borrower, so that the money flow, the financial flow in the market, housing market is steady, and the construction and the supply is steady in the market. That was another very important part of the program, which was a part of this decade. And then another program came called Rajiv Rin Yojana. In this program, the objective was to that a poor person or a common man, when they take the housing finance from a bank or any financing institution, sometimes they cannot repay the money, the borrowed money. So, government told that under this Yojana, they will give some interest subsidy. For example, if the bank interest for the housing loan or housing finance is say 10%, so government will provide up to 6-7%, and so that the individual customer, they will give maximum 4% of the interest. So, that is another approach which was there in Rajiv Rin Yojana as a major intervention in the housing finance for the individual housing finance. Then after this, the affordable housing in partnership, that was revised. Affordable housing policy for the state, it came as a model by the government of India. This we will discuss after 1 or 2 lectures. And then in 2015, 2 major program came in India, and right now we are following that. In 2014-15, following the Rajiv Awas Yojana, current government in India, they launched another program called Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. The main motto, main goal of this the program was to achieve housing for all by the year 2022, and this Yojana has various aspects in terms of supply side and demand side. At one hand, it is creating the demand side intervention, like the mortgage guarantee, the interest subsidy, the regularization of the housing finance market, everything. And on the supply side, they have thought about a technology submission, whose main objective will be to create the ecosystem of new technology which can deliver faster housing, because the current housing market or housing supply mechanism have basically consist of the conventional housing construction, which takes 4 to 5 years for a major housing project. So, as a result, after the completion of the project gets delayed, or sometimes the cost escalation is there, and as a result the common man, they have to pay the major chunk of the money. So, what government tried to see this as a overall systemic change in the housing supply mechanism. If the housing construction time is reduced by one half or one third, and by the new technology, maybe the cost and the time will be achieved. For this reason, the new technology are envisaged, and after right now the BMTPC, Building Material and Technology Promotion Council, who is basically coordinating the projects, this particular scheme, and they have identified 16 new technologies . 16 new technologies. Currently these technologies are under trial and under research and development at various research laboratories and IITs, so that these technologies, after certain experimentation and certain testing, this can be applied for the housing sector. So this is one of the major achievement in the the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which envisages the housing for all by 2022. At the same time, with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, considering the preventive action which was envisaged in Rajiv Awas Yojana, the Government of India also came up with a draft policy, on rental housing. So we told that in rental housing, basically government saw that it is to creating various types of rental housing for the people in transition or the migration, ultimately will arrest the formation of the slum in a preventive manner. So government came up with a policy on rental housing. This policy tells us about the various types of the types of the various migrated people, what kind of housing or what kind of housing typology they prefer or they require, and what could be the strategy for the city to make the housing for the transitional or the migrated people. So right now we have Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana technology submission and the rental housing policy. These are working at the national level. So major change after the government as provider, then enabler, and right now during 2010 to 2020 we are seeing that government role as facilitator. They are basically facilitating the market, facilitating the people, facilitating the developer to create more housing, and also they are facilitating the people to buy the house in a lower cost of rate. So that is the major the current paradigm of the housing delivery in India, public interventions. Next lecture we will discuss, along with the public intervention, what are the reforms, changes also came in terms of land, finance, legal, all the reforms came, so that we can understand the policy after that in a very detailed manner in the further lectures. Thank you.